Hello everyone, my name is Daryl. I work as a software developer, and in this video you'll see how I naturally work through a LeetCode challenge. This is a problem that I'm seeing for the first time, and I'll explain myself as I work through it. My solution won't likely be the best or most efficient. It'll be the one I come up with first as I work through the problem. So this is a medium difficulty problem, and it's the second one on the site. It's add two numbers. So let's read through this one. So you're given two non-empty linked lists representing two non-negative integers. The digits are stored in reverse order, and each of their nodes contains a single digit. Add the two numbers and return the sum as a linked list. You may assume the two numbers do not contain any leading zero, except the number 0 itself. So here in the example they have 2, 4, 3, and 5, 6, 4. These are the linked lists. And so this represents 243, and this represents 564, and then this is the answer. And this is the actual input for L1 and L2, and there's the output, and of course it's showing you the add those two together. And then they show another example where 0 and 0 goes to 0, and then you have all of these, okay? So obviously the difficult part, let's read the constraints real quick. Number of nodes in each linked list is between 1 and 100. Node.val is between 0 and 9. It's guaranteed that the list represents a number that does not have leading zeros. Awesome. So obviously the difficult portion of this problem is simply going through the linked list and extracting the values and turning those into ints. The adding part is very easy. So let's go ahead and copy this over and start working on this. So we're going to need this, and we're going to need a separate class list node. And I believe they have the code here for what that would look like. And there's the they're just showing how to access the value. Okay, so this is our class for list node. The two of them are passed, and we need to return it as a list node, which is fun. So I'm actually going to make a separate function here, and it's going to be called extract value from list nodes. This will take, we'll do it the same here. It's interesting that they allow these to be in the problem. I'm assuming this is because the problem wasn't originally written in Kotlin, I'm assuming. Because it's just interesting that they allow these to be nullable, and yet they say it's guaranteed that the list represents a number that does not have leading zeros. And they don't mention here that you have to worry about nulls. I'll leave them as nullable for now, but I don't think it's something we actually need to worry about. So this is going to return int. And so let's go ahead and write this real quick. Well, if we're going to have an extract function, we should have another function for create list node from int. And this will return list node. So add two numbers is going to end up being pretty simple. We're just going to say val first value equals extract value from list nodes. This should actually be list node. We only are going to pass one list node. And we're going to pass L1 val second value is equal to extract from L2. And we're just going to return create list node from int. let's make, I think for this problem, it's fine. First value plus second value. Normally, I would probably have this as a separate value and then pass it to here, but I'm just going to do first value but second value here for this problem. So now we need to actually implement these. So the whole point of this is to extract the value from the list node. And so we know these are going to be 3-digit numbers. So we can simply say first value is going to be equal to list node dot val dot or index so it's just going to be equal to the val times 100 because the first value is going to be times 100. Then we're going to do list node is equal to list list node dot next. We'll have to create val list node work. It's going to be equal to list node. And let's set this equal to that. Make that a var. So we're going to advance it onto the next value. And let's actually just change this to result. And it's going to be a var. We're going to say result is equal to list node work dot val. I'm not going to actually change this real quick. I'm going to remove the nullability there and force unwrap it here so that I don't need to do this so many times because it's getting kind of annoying. It still wants an assertion call there, so we'll leave it. That times 10 because that's the second slot. Then we're going to do... So obviously I'm not the biggest fan of us duplicating the code here, but for the purposes of this problem is very well made in the way that it's very well documented, and we know exactly what is going to happen. We know it's going to be 3 digits. We know it's not going to have a leading 0. So in this case, I don't think this is too bad of a solution because it makes it straightforward to read through it. In the real world, things wouldn't be anywhere near this explicit and just like laid out and like it's going to be exactly this. Oh, okay. Yeah. It was telling me this is redundant because we need to make sure we're doing result plus this value. Yes, plus equals q. And then we're going to add that one on, and then we're going to return it. Then we simply need to create our function here. It's probably going to tell me this can be private, right? Yeah, that's fine. Not a big deal for this problem, but yes, we do want to do the good coding practices when we can. All right, so because we're using Kotlin, this is going to be pretty easy to implement. First, I'm just going to we're going to create a val called value string. It's going to be equal to value.toString. And we know that's fine to do because we know we're going to be passing it a valid value because of, once again, the way that this problem is defined. Then we're going to create a list node. We'll just call it list node 1. It's going to be equal to a list node with values string substring 0 in it dot to int doesn't want me to use two ints because it's depreciated. So we'll just do .code. Then we're simply going to wait to create a couple other list nodes. And this is going to be 1. This is going to be 2. And then we need to say list node 1.next is going to be equal to list node 2. And list node 2.next is equal to list node 3. Then we just need to return list node 1. So let's go ahead and we just need the solution class. We're going to copy this over. Let's run the code. Okay, we got an error. This is... Okay, it doesn't have this code thing. So I changed it to code because that was a recommendation by Lint. I'm going to change it back to int. I know it's depreciated and it's saying that we should use code, but I'm assuming the Kotlin version they're using here is not the same version that I have, which is more up to date. So toInt should work here. Wrong answer. Let's see what we got. So we got 243 and 564, and we returned 5648 and 55. So let's go ahead and I'm going to want to debug real quick. Yeah, I think there's a simple problem going on, but I just want to do a quick debug. So to run this, I'll need to basically do this a couple of times. 2, 4, 3. I'll need to do this again, but it'll be 4, 5, and 6 with the values 5, 6, and 4. And we can just run add. We need to create a solution. And we can say solution.add two numbers. Let's actually change this to 4 and 5. And this should be 5 and 6. And we'll pass this and this. Let's actually do a print of this and run it just to see that I get this same wrong answer. So it just gave that. Let's just do .val. I just want to see what if the first value matches, I'll be happy with that. Okay, 56, so it's probably doing the same thing. All right, so let's do a quick debug. Let's put it here. Debug. Just get the short keys. Okay. So first I just want to see, right now it's saying the first value and the second value. So, all right, so we know this extract function is working properly. It is going to be somewhere in this create list node from int. Actually, let me restart that again real quick. Let's rerun that. 243, 564, that's right? 243, 564. Because I see that when we go into here, value is 807, which is not right. Actually, it is 807. That's fine. But it's actually interesting because the output... Oh. I see what it's saying. That's actually really weird. If this is 243 and this is 564, why would it want the output to be reversed? Because this should... I would expect this to be 708 when, of course, it's actually 807. Digits disordered in reverse order. Ah! That's why, because this is... Yeah, I didn't implement the reverse order thing properly. So that's definitely going to be at least part of the problem. So let's stop this real quick and work on that. So that's simply going to be changing this around. So that times 10 and that times 100. Now if we debug this again, 342, 465. So that was a simple fix. And why is that still okay, no, that is 807. Okay. So one thing, of course, that we're going to need to do is reverse this order. So let's do that real quick, and let's try again. That's correct, that's correct. Going into here, that's correct. So list node 1 has a value of 55. That is a problem. So it's storing the characters because I cast it to a string. So it's not casting it to an integer properly. So instead, I think we want to do... Let me see here. Let's try digit to int. See if that works better. That looks like it works better because now we get a 7. All right. Let's go ahead and copy the solution over. Now we run the code. So we had a couple issues there we had to correct. And now we get, it doesn't like, okay. So it doesn't like digit to int. So once again, something to do with their Kotlin version being different, even though it works in my compiler. But I think instead, even though this works perfectly fine, we're instead going to do, we can just do this dot to string dot to int. I think the to int will work fine if we cast it to a string first. I think it's just because we're doing it on a char. Yeah, because that still gets a 7. And this should work in this compiler. Okay, we got an accepted. Let's do a submit. Null pointer acceptance. So we do have to worry about nulls. Let's see here. So this was when you had a 0 and a 0. So it looks like my expectation that we were always going to get 3-digit numbers, which is what I thought it was telling me, is not correct. Because in this case, we have those 2 zeros, in which case it should return a 0. Now, of course, I don't know if we're going to get any 2-digit numbers. So I think we're going to need to change this a little bit. So for now, I'm still going to assume that we're always going to have that first list node, and we'll see if that proves me wrong otherwise. But here, let's have result be out here and be 0. Or we can just have it be a 0 for now. Then we'll do a for loop or a while loop. While list node dot next is not null. Then we're going to have a multiplier, which is going to be equal to 1 initially. Then we'll say result plus equals list. Actually, we want to do this either way. So let's initialize it to list node.val. And if there's something next, we want to go to the next one and set the multiplier times equals 10. We want to set this to, well, and then after each one, we then here want to say result plus equals the value times the multiplier. So after, this is like setting the first one, and then while there's additional ones, it goes to the next one, increases the multiplier, and then adds it onto the result. So then we can get rid of all of this and return results. Now it might complain. Well, let me see about this one. So we are going to need to change this one up a bit. So let's instead create an array list of list nodes. It's about list nodes. All right. This will end up being this 0. Then we're going to loop backwards. We can do I. So we're going to loop backwards here and say list nodes.add list node with I in it. Then we'll say, let me just check, can you do probably can't do something like this. You can. Okay, so let's do this then. So I want the index. So it's going to add with there. Then I want to say if value string dot length greater than or equal to index plus 2. Let's actually not do this because that won't really work. Okay. So instead, we're going to do this and say if index is, let's just do if list nodes dot size is greater than 1, then let's actually, I want to take this out here. New list node, need a val, it's fine. We'll end up putting this in there later, in here. Then we want to say here, list nodes, actually we want to do this after here. That's the whole point, because if there's something in list nodes, then we want to get the last value and set next equal to new list node before we add it. So then we actually don't need the index. And hopefully this works. Let's go ahead and give this one a shot. Get a null pointer exception. With the regular one? Let me try that. Okay. At this point, let's go ahead and do a debug real quick so I can see. So we have the first one, and it goes through there the first time. And it goes through here the second time. And now, aha! We need to use list node work here in order to make that work better. There you go. Why is it 2 though? Let's plug it in here and see what it's doing as the result. I just want to see what it's obviously doing something wrong now, but I want to see what the answer is, or what my full response is. 210. Okay, let's go ahead and do debug 342, 465. Those are correct. 807. So right now, list nodes is 0. So we're going to start with the last value. It's saying current value is 2. Why is it because it's doing it by index? That would be why. Let's change this to current index, and then we'll create val current value. That will be equal to value string of current index dot to string dot to int. This needs to be a function call. Let's try that. Okay, now we got 7 again. Okay. Let's copy this, try again. So now we're back working again with that example. Let's see what happens when we submit. Okay, we got a wrong answer, a different wrong answer, which, well, actually, I don't know if it's failing earlier or later. So we got 9 and 1 and all these other 9s. This is the output. And this is what it expected, because, yeah, 9 plus these So why are we getting this as an answer? So let's go ahead and we'll do a debug on this one. So for this one, we just need to make this a 9. We don't need to link anything to this. We'll need 2, 3, 4. These will be 1, and then we'll need a bunch of 9s. Well, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I gotta say, the one thing I hate about IntelliJ, and I'm sure other editors have the same problem, is when I'm trying to do this exact thing, which doesn't happen often, because normally, you know, you would make this an array, but it's really annoying when you are doing that. So we want to set node 2.next to node 3, node 3.next to node 4, six to 7, and now I lost my copy. 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, and 10 to 11. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, I get that 8, which is going to be the start of this, as my answer. So let's go ahead and do a debug. First value we get 9. Then we get... Okay, so the first one it worked, and the second one it didn't work. We got... Got 8. It's like 8 9s. Yeah, we got 8 9s. So let's go ahead and see what's going on with that. And so we have our result here. So we got the first one. And then it goes to 99. 999. Okay. Okay, weird that it exit. Maybe I didn't set this up right. Let me look at this. That could be a reason why. 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. So actually, let me see. When we go to L2, aha, that's why. Because we're passing it midway. I figured it was something dumb. Okay. So now if I hit play, yeah, stop and rerun, we still get to 8. Okay. So let's go back here and debug again. 9, and then what is that? That's obviously wrong. So let's go check that out. So first you got the 1. Then you got the 91. See where it starts messing up. Okay. I think we're actually running into an issue simply because we're actually hitting the maximum for an integer. Can I say this is an int 64. Let's make this a long. We're going to have to turn a long. And then we'll have to make this except a long. It looks like that's fine. Dot too long. I think that's the problem. Well, let's actually give it a shot. So still getting that weird result. Let's go in there again and see. Because it was fine for a long while. It's on the last one. When it causes the issue. Let me debug it one more time. So we're going into here, setting list node work. List node work does not have a next, but it has a 9 for a null. Multiplier we have is this number. Oh, okay. It could still be because it's a long. If we make this a long, does that help at all? It does, okay, because we get a 0 as the first. So let's try that. Looks like it was a long. Issue with that, so let's do the example again. That works. Let's do submit. Wrong answer. So it's a different one. So that is a... So I'm just kind of thinking here. Yeah, and this kind of goes back to, I guess, these can be extraordinarily long. So I think the problem... I think it's wrong that we are doing this. We're passing longs. I think we need to be passing strings instead in order to handle such long numbers. No pun intended. So we're instead going to need to change this to return a string, and I know this is going to mess everything up. We need to go back here. These are going to be strings. Actually, we probably do need these to be longs, because we are going to need to... Let's see if this works. We're going to need to add these together. Go back to the description real quick. It could be up to 100 nodes. I think a long would be good enough. Let's go ahead and try that. And now we have to... I think this is still fine. And actually, though, this is going to be result long. So now, let's think where we have to change this. The result is now going to be a string. And we're going to do toString. And then simply, we don't need this multiplier anymore. We're going to, if there's a next one, we're going to set that to the next and the result is going to be equal to, we're going to add onto it that's .toString. Let's see if that helps at all. Okay, so now we're getting that 8 again, so we know somewhere in here something is doing a wrong calculation again. So we get the 9 and that, and there's strings now. Result long. Let's go back to, no, I don't want to actually look at the solution. I want to see submissions. There you go. Because that's actually wrong. It's not doing it in reverse like it should be. I think the very simple solution to this is to do reversed here. Let's debug again. Okay. Then we go into here. Let me quickly go ahead and do, just hit play on this. We get 0, which is correct for the first one. So let's try this as a solution. Let's first run the code. And let's submit. Okay. Error in thread. Number format exception. This looks like it's the same one. Which line? All right, let's try one more thing. So instead of doing, for now I'll leave the longs here. But when we add these together, let's set this to big integer. Which I'm going to hope that it's complaining because the that's a big integer, and then this will accept a big integer. Oh well, this isn't going to cause any issues. Now the fun part is going to be, do they have big integer, or are they going to tell me that doesn't exist? Okay, they have it, so let's try this. Still doesn't like that. Oh, I think it's because it's doing the addition and then it's converting. I think that's the problem. Let's just do that plus that both as big integers. Let's just do a submit on that. Still doesn't like that. What if we just do this? Oops. There we go. All right, finally got it to pass. As I expected, this is not a particularly good answer for either the runtime or the memory usage, but we got it to work. Particularly, I knew this was going to be bad at memory usage because I had to result in using big integer, which is very rare to use. Let's quickly go over the code. So, first we get our two list nodes. Then we set first value and the second value to the result from our extract value from list node function. Then this could be renamed, of course. It was result long. It could be result big integer now, obviously. This kind of code wouldn't be committed with that name. But we cast both of these to big integers because they can be big, as we saw in those results there. And then we simply return the list node. It ends up being the first list node in the chain from create list node from int. So in our extract value from list node function, we create a working list node, which is different from the list node that gets passed. We create a result, which is going to first be equal to the first value. Then we're going to loop through all of the values. And we're going to be setting the list node work.next. We're going to be setting the list node to the next node in the set because we tested it here and we know that we're going to have a next node. And then we add to our string here the value basically of that next node that we just changed to. Once we go all the way through that, we are just going to return that result string in reversed order. So it ends up being in the correct order for what we want to do with it. And then when we run this create list node from int, we pass in a big integer. And we're going to return that first list node. So we get a string value for that value. Then we create an array of list nodes. And we're going to go ahead and loop through backwards that string. And we're going to be getting that index. We're going to be setting the current value of that index to the current index from that value string, but we're going to cast that to an integer. And this obviously doesn't need to be big integer because that's just a single location, a single value in the string, which is going to be from 0 to 9. Then we are going to create a new list node. We're going to check if there is a list node in our array yet. And if there is, then we need to go to the last one in the list and set the next value to this new list node we just created. Then finally, we'll add that new list node to list nodes. And then once we're done going through all of that, we'll have a nice chain of linked lists. And we're going to return the first node in the sequence. That's basically it. Hopefully that helped you guys. This was a longer one because it was a medium difficulty question. But thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.